What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to another video from The Sports Scoop. I kind of slightly got a new setup, upgraded the camera from the
shitty 480p one.
Dylan is finally on a show after being AFK in real life.
I got kidnapped.
But without further, let's get into what we're talking about. Enjoy sports content. Bay Buccaneers, Ali Marpet.
I'm doing well.
I'm someone that knows the game pretty well.
Drafted third overall by the Boston Celtics.
Today we are doing the Carolina Panthers Buster Boom for the 2020 NFL season. If you guys are new to the channel, this is our Buster Boom series where we analyze each NFL team for the 2020 NFL season, or at least we try to. And today we're doing the Carolina Panthers. Within each Buster Boom, we talk about the key players for each NFL team, their free agency signings, as well as trades, and then also their draft, and then we talk about their record prediction. And let's get straight into it. The Carolina Panthers, talking about key players. And number one, obviously, Christian McCaffrey, the dominant running back, the most prolific in terms of scoring running back last year in fantasy, as well as just, regularly in the NFL, receiving, rushing, ground and pound player, absolute dog for that Carolina Panthers offense. Carried that team really to an extent that was really crazy last year. What can you really say about him? Last year, 2,392 yards, as well as 19 touchdowns receiving and rushing. And now going into this season, new changes in the quarterback position, which we will address later. So I think it'll definitely affect him in some ways in terms of carries and receptions. Now that they have a more experienced quarterback who may not be just checking down the ball like Kyle Allen did. But Charlie, what are your thoughts?
I think McCaffrey, obviously an outstanding running back, as you said. What did you say? 23, almost 20, almost 2,400 yards. That's phenomenal. I don't remember ever seeing that before. Like a player going for 1,000 rushing and receiving yards. That's pretty incredible. However, although McCaffrey is a great player, I think that the Panthers' success this year relies more on Teddy Bridgewater. I think although McCaffrey is bound to have a great season, unless, of course, knock on wood, I just feel like he's going to have an outstanding season no matter who the quarterback in Carolina is. I just feel like he can't take the Panthers to the playoffs alone. He needs to have Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback to do well. I just feel like McCaffrey, his success will affect the Panthers, but maybe not as much as Teddy Bridgewater.
Him as a player is the best running back I have seen in a long time. He reminds me of a prime Le'Veon Bell, the way he breaks into the spaces. But the thing about Christian McCaffrey that's really impressive that Le'Veon Bell didn't have is Christian McCaffrey doesn't have an offensive line that is as good as the Steelers' offensive line. He does it himself. And stats-wise, you can look at the numbers. He's clearly the best receiving running back in the league, as well as rushing running back. But I don't know if he'll do as well receiving this year because Teddy Bridgewater is a much more experienced quarterback than Kyle Allen was last year, and Kyle Allen used him as a check down, like more to be safe than to create yards, and I don't think Bridgewater will do it as much. It'll be interesting to see. Moving on to our next player, where we have their free agent signing, technically Teddy Bridgewater, but I feel like, since he's a new quarterback, we have to talk about it in terms of key players. And I like this signing. I think he's coming into a essentially vacant Carolina quarterback spot, as Kyle Allen was definitely not the quarterback they wanted last year, although he did, not play terribly. He played, just as well as you expect him to. And Teddy Bridgewater really hasn't been on the scene since the Vikings. I mean, injuries. We don't really know where he's going. He lands in the Saints, but, backup. And you have to think about it. Teddy Bridgewater played as a starter when Drew Brees had injured his finger last year, and was incredible. And I know, he had the best receiver in the league last year, Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara, and a good offensive line. But you have to think about, bouncing back, taking a role of a team that, going into a season where this team was, even favorites maybe for the Super Bowl and playoffs, and, still bringing that team to that standard and getting them wins to push them further until Drew Brees got back was incredible. I think he's going to fit in Carolina. I like the sign. I think he has targets, DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel, as well as recently signed Robbie Anderson, and then Christian McCaffrey. I think he has it all set up here. I don't see why he couldn't be able to do it. Disagree. I don't think that Teddy Bridgewater is the right choice because he's older. He's a quick fix. He's not expensive, however. He's much more expensive than it would have been if they traded for a draft pick. The Giants were calling for it. They wanted to trade down, and the Panthers didn't swoop into that opportunity. I don't understand why. They could have had Tua. Kyle Allen obviously wasn't the answer going into this season, and it's just a quick fix. I don't like the signing. I can't see how you could think it's a good one.
I think Teddy Bridgewater, although some may say he played well last year with the Saints after Breeze was hurt, he hurt his finger in the Rams game. I just think he was throwing to possibly the best receiver in football in Michael Thomas, he's a pass catching receiver. He runs short routes. He gets the ball. That's why he broke the receptions record last year. So Teddy Bridgewater, he didn't do anything extraordinary last year. And if you're going to look for a quarterback that for the Panthers, they're rebuilding around McCaffrey right now. And if you're going to look for a quarterback who's right about in his prime, he's got to be something special. Because if you're rebuilding, you're going to want a younger quarterback. You're going to want someone that you can rebuild around. So I think, as you said, the Giants were like screaming to trade down. And as a Giants fan, I'm not happy that they didn't, but I think there were definitely possibilities that they could have. And one of those teams that they could have traded that fourth pick to was the Panthers. I just feel like the Giants were calling for it. The Panthers needed that quarterback, and then they just didn't make a move for it. With that seventh pick, they did draft Derek Brown, but they could have had Tua or Herbert. I think Tua was probably the better choice there, but they could have had a rookie quarterback coming in this year instead of, I think you said, a 28-year-old Teddy Bridgewater. I just think that would have been a much, much better move.
Yeah, so DJ Moore, I personally drafted him in fantasy this year, and I'm excited for him this year. I think last year, really broke out last year as that number one receiver in Carolina. I think he's, a mid route running receiver. He had just above or about 1,200 yards last year, 4 touchdowns, but a lot of receptions. And the thing that I like about him is I think he fits Teddy Bridgewater's QB style. I think that they're going to fit well. The only problem I would say with him is the addition of Robbie Anderson. But I think that shouldn't be too much of an effect because Robbie Anderson is a pure deep threat receiver as he was on the Jets. So I think DJ Moore is going to be the number one target for Teddy Bridgewater. I don't think that's really a discussion. But I think, contention in terms of receptions next year, as well as, having a really good receiving back could, mess with him. But I think he should have 1,000 plus, maybe 5 touchdowns last year, which should be really good for him.
So moving on to the defensive side of the ball, Brian Burns, a second-year player, I think he was a really promising pick. I think he was picked at 16, 17 last year, whatever pick the Panthers had in the first round. I think he was really promising last year. I can't say he was a great player at outside linebacker, but he was definitely promising. I think he only had 19 tackles, and I'm not sure why that is. I was just looking at his stats. I'm not sure if he was injured for part of the season, but he only had 19 tackles. On the plus side, he had 7.5 sacks. That's pretty beastly. For an outside linebacker, a rookie outside linebacker playing on a defense that really didn't have much last year, other than now retired Luke Kuechly. It was a defense that really was not very good, and he played pretty extraordinarily. 7.5 sacks for rookie outside linebacker. That's all I can say. I think a really good player in Brian Burns in years to come
was Robbie Anderson, and I can't say this is a bad or good signing. I think it was, I guess slightly surprising. I think he was the best receiver on the Jets, so I think on the Jets side of the ball, I don't really understand the point of trading him. He's not the greatest receiver. He was the best receiver on the Jets, though. Going to this Carolina team, I think he'll fit well. I think he's coming into a scheme where he might not get the ball as much. But he's a deep threat. He's gonna spread the field and give space for Curtis Samuel and DJ Moore to catch the ball. He's gonna give space for McCaffrey to run into the space off receptions. So I think Robbie Anderson is a good sign. He's a good receiver, and he's gonna kill it in the league. And I think he's happy to be on the Panthers there.
Going on to the defensive side of the ball, the Carolina Panthers selected Eli Apple, which was a good pick in free agency in terms of talent. However, for a rebuilding side, you go back to Eli Apple's first team at the New York Giants. He had a great first season with the Ben McAdoo. But the second season he played, the team described him as a locker room cancer. They said he ruined the ways the Giants wanted to play football with his drama, and he's not a player that they wanted in their team. They cut him after that. He went over to the Saints, where he, again, had put up great numbers as a cornerback. He wasn't exactly Marshawn Lattimore, but he was good enough to start. The next season, last season, after they made the conference finals, he unfolded as a player. He wasn't as good. They said that he was having mental breakdowns in the locker room. They said he was treating the team unfairly with his criticism, as he took advantage of the younger players. And just going on to the Panthers, in a team that's rebuilding, this isn't a player that you want to have in your locker room to lead the younger guys. I see the logic that they don't have a great cornerback duo and they want to strengthen it with better players. But the mindset of the signing with him and Bridgewater just isn't right. I don't understand what they were doing bringing them in.
Yeah, I mean, I could quickly want to talk about that. I think Eli Apple on the field, yeah, he's a solid cornerback, and we'll match it with Dante Jackson, who's very good, incredible cornerback from LSU. But you also think about they just signed or just drafted, Troy Pride from Notre Dame, who should be very good, as well as took Eli's number 25. And I think Troy Pride's probably the future. I think Eli Apple, I'm looking at a year and a half here, gets traded or cut. I think his NFL career is not looking great in terms of that. Now let's move on to the NFL draft.
So obviously, biggest move for the Panthers probably this offseason, they took Derek Brown in the draft. They had pick number 7, and I think that this was the player on the top of a lot of people's lists to go to the Panthers. And I think they made the right move here. Obviously, we talked about them being able to trade up, but they didn't. So I think Derek Brown was a very good pick, although Isaiah Simmons was let drop to the Cardinals. I think he also could have been a very good pick, but they were looking mainly at Derek Brown, and they thought he was going to go early. They thought Isaiah Simmons was going to go earlier. So they took Derek Brown. For our full analysis on Derek Brown, obviously go check out our NFL draft videos. But what I'm thinking, he had 4 sacks last year with Auburn. He was a force in the run game. I think he had 30-something tackles. And in a short college season, it's only like 12 or 13 games. Some teams play 14. But I think Derek Brown is an absolute beast of a man. He is a force on the inside at D tackle. I think this is a pick that they're not going to go wrong with. I think he'll be a beast for them on the inside.
Yeah, now moving on to our next draft pick, where we have Yetur Gross-Matos. I think completely stolen. Him and Derek Brown there is going to be, unfair. I think that defensive line literally improved like that in a second. Now, possibly one of the more dominant defensive lines there. I think Yetur Gross-Matos brings power on the edge and brings, that duo with Derek Brown on the inside, and Derek Brown getting double team gives Yetur Gross-Matos one-on-ones on the outside, which he should be able to win and improve their sack game, as well as Brian Burns coming off the edge. I think that line should be incredible. But now let's talk about records. So I have the most ceiling record, I guess you could say. I have the Panthers going 7-9. I think Teddy Bridgewater is going to pay off. Not totally like best player or MVP, but like payoff. He's going to be able to bring experience there. I think McCaffrey's going to have a breakout season. I think that defense is going to play well, bringing in Troy Pride, Eli Apple, as well as Yetur Gross-Matos and Derek Brown. I have them at 7-9.
This is supposed to be me.
Go ahead. Yeah, Dylan, go ahead. You can go second.
All right. Yeah, I don't think the same thing. I think that the Carolina Panthers are rebuilding as a team, and I think they need one more season to kind of feel the pain of losing before they get into some real success. I don't think that they have the pieces in terms of defense to support the lack of offense they have. And it pretty much just sounds like I'm saying they're bad. It's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that Christian McCaffrey can't do everything himself, but it's what he's going to have to do if they're going to have a good season.
So, yeah, I think Christian McCaffrey, obviously, I think he's going to have a fantastic season this year, just like last year. DJ Moore, I think, could be an over 1,000-yard receiver. Robbie Anderson has disappointed me in the past couple of years, but I think he could be a good deep threat for Bridgewater. However, I don't think the Bridgewater move paid off, and I can't see the Panthers getting more than 5 wins. That's what I've got the Panthers at, 5 wins, 5-11.
That was it for the Carolina Panthers predictions. If you guys did enjoy and made it to the end of the video, make sure to drop a like as well as subscribe if you're new. And drop a comment. We say this every video. We'll respond to all comments. Go check out some of our other Buster Boom videos. There's a playlist that you can see on our channel, so you can definitely go check that out. Also follow our Instagram, _sports_scoop, and check out our podcast, The Uncut Sports. That's no spaces, The Uncut Sports space podcast. Out on everything: Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. So go check us out there. We have some huge guests coming, and I already had one. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. We're gonna start posting videos, and stay tuned for more. Thank you guys.